Ryan's office revenge.
I was standing knee-deep in ammonia fumes on the I-95 bridge when Callan Stone fired me over the radio. He screamed that operators were replaceable, not knowing I was the only hazmat certified recovery specialist in 3 counties watching his rookie crew about to kill everyone within a 5-mile radius. He wanted to save money on my salary. Instead, he lost his $2.8 million state contract and watched his company collapse by morning. My name is Noah Mitchell. I'm 58 years old, and I've been pulling broken machinery out of impossible places since I got out of the Navy Seabees 30 years ago. What happened that night wasn't just about one jackknife tanker truck. It was about what happens when bean counters think experience is expensive until they need it to save lives. The thing about working heavy recovery is that every call could be your last if you make the wrong decision. I learned that lesson in Fallujah back in 2003, watching a bridge collapse because some contractor cut corners on the support specifications. Lost 3 good men that day: Rodriguez, Patterson, and kid named Tommy, whose last name I never did learn to pronounce. They died because someone in an air-conditioned office decided that American engineering standards were unnecessarily expensive for Iraqi infrastructure. I swore that day I'd never let cost-cutting kill anyone on my watch again. Took me 8 years of military construction work to really understand what that meant, that sometimes being expensive is the same thing as being alive. When I got out in '94, civilian heavy recovery was like the Wild West. No real standards, no certification requirements, just guys with big trucks and bigger attitudes. But the work called to me. Same physics as military engineering, same life or death precision, just different uniforms. Started as a hook tender with Morrison Recovery, old school outfit that taught me the difference between moving equipment and saving lives. The nor'easter hit us hard that February night. Wind speeds hitting 45 miles per hour, visibility down to maybe 10 feet in the whiteout conditions. Temperature dropping fast enough that exposed metal would freeze-burn your skin in seconds. This was the kind of night where smart people stayed home and emergency responders earned their pay. I was operating Big Mother, our 60-ton rotator recovery unit, when the call came in. She was a 2019 Century 150, 50-foot boom reach with dual winches and enough hydraulic pressure to deadlift a fully loaded B-52. Cost Stone Recovery $1.2 million new, and she was worth every penny when you needed to lift 80,000 pounds of twisted metal off a busy interstate. Unit 1, priority call, came Shelby Davis's voice through the static. She'd been our dispatcher for 12 years, started when Old Man Stone was still running things. Shelby knew every truck in the fleet by its engine sound, could route traffic around an incident better than the state DOT, and had memorized every bridge weight restriction from Boston to Providence. Most importantly, she understood that in our business, fast meant dead. Go ahead, Shelby. Double tanker carrying liquid ammonia has jackknifed on the northbound side, mile marker 127, cab is hanging over the rail, driver trapped inside. Fire department's establishing perimeter, but they need you on scene immediately. I felt my chest tighten. Anhydrous ammonia, the stuff they use in industrial refrigeration and fertilizer production. Colorless, but with a smell that stripped paint off a barn door. Concentration levels above 300 parts per million would burn your lungs out in under 2 minutes. Above 500 ppm, you'd be unconscious before you knew you were dying. Confirm hazmat protocols are active. I asked, already checking my gear. Full face respirator. Chemical-resistant suit. Emergency oxygen supply. Standard equipment for chemical recovery that most outfits skip to save money confirmed. Fire department's establishing perimeter. State Trooper Wesley Pierce is incident commander. Wesley and I went back 15 years. Good cop understood that heavy recovery wasn't about speed, it was about precision. He'd worked enough chemical spills to know that one wrong move could turn a localized incident into a regional evacuation. More importantly, he trusted my judgment enough to let me work without micromanagement. ETA 7 minutes, Shelby. Tell Wesley I'll need a 200-yard safety perimeter and wind direction updates every 5 minutes. I put Big Mother into gear and started the careful drive through the storm. The GPS said it was 12 miles to the incident site, but GPS doesn't account for black ice, wind shear, or the simple physics of moving 120,000 pounds of truck and equipment through a blizzard. I had learned long ago that showing up late was better than not showing up at all. The radio crackled as I navigated the on-ramp. Unit 1. This is Fleet Operations. Garrett Fox. Callan Stone had brought him in 3 months ago from some logistics company in Boston. Kid had an MBA in supply chain management and a spreadsheet for everything, including how long recovery operations should take. He'd never worked a day in actual recovery. But he had theories about efficiency optimization that made Callan's eyes light up like Christmas morning. Unit 1 here, Garrett, kind of busy driving through a blizzard right now. Corporate wants status updates every 15 minutes tonight. Weather's affecting our efficiency metrics across the entire fleet. I stared at the radio for a second, watching my wipers fight a losing battle against the ice accumulating on the windshield. Efficiency metrics. We had a man potentially dying in a cab full of ammonia vapor, and this kid was worried about his performance dashboard. Copy that, Garrett. I'll update when I'm not trying to keep 60 tons of equipment from sliding off the road. The incident site was worse than Shelby had described. The lead trailer had stayed upright, but the rear tanker, a 9,000-gallon pressure vessel, had pivoted sideways across 2 lanes, its coupling stressed well beyond manufacturer specifications. Worse, I could see stress fractures along the tank's main weld seams, hairline cracks that looked like spider webs in my headlights. Wesley jogged over through the sleet as I started my preliminary assessment. Noah, thank God. Driver's conscious but trapped. We've got maybe 30 minutes before hypothermia sets in, and I can smell ammonia even through my mask. I pulled out my atmospheric monitor, a $3,000 piece of equipment that most recovery outfits considered optional. The numbers made my stomach drop. We were already at 150 ppm and climbing, not immediately fatal, but high enough that exposure would cause permanent lung damage in under an hour. We need to get him out fast, Wesley said, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. But every time the wind hits that cab, it swings another inch toward the edge. I pulled Big Mother into position, hydraulic outriggers extending like mechanical legs to grip the ice-covered asphalt. The setup was critical, too close, and I'd be working in the toxic zone too far, and I wouldn't have the reach to stabilize both the cab and the tanker. I'd done this dance 1,000 times before, but never with a chemical leak eating away at my safety margin. The scene reminded me of Ramadi 2004. We'd had a fuel convoy hit an IED, one truck hanging off a blown bridge with the driver trapped inside. Same physics, different stakes. Back then, insurgent fire was the time pressure. Tonight, it was invisible death seeping out of fractured steel. Atmospheric reading is climbing, I told Wesley, watching the numbers on my monitor tick upward. We're at 180 ppm now. I need you to push that perimeter back to 300 yards and get me wind speed every 2 minutes. I climbed up into Big Mother's control cab, the familiar embrace of hydraulic controls and digital displays. The heater was blasting against my frozen face, but I kept my full respirator on. You don't take chances with industrial chemicals. Not after you've seen what they can do to human tissue. The cab was rigging the secondary winch when my company radio crackled to life. Static. Then Garrett Fox's voice cutting through the white noise. Unit 1, report status. You've been on scene for 12 minutes with no movement indicators on GPS. I stared at the radio, then at the dangling cab swaying in the wind, 60 feet above the frozen river. Movement indicators, like I was delivering a pizza, instead of preventing a chemical disaster. Unit 1 securing load, I replied, not taking my eyes off the hydraulic readings. Tankers showing stress indicators, need to cradle the load before attempting extraction. Negative on the delay, Garrett's voice came back sharp. Corporate efficiency standards require movement every 15 minutes maximum. We're burning $180 per hour on that rotator, and weather conditions are impacting fleet-wide productivity metrics. I clicked off without responding. Efficiency standards, productivity metrics. This kid had no idea what he was talking about. The coupling holding that cab was already sheared 40% through. One wrong pressure angle and 2,000 gallons of liquid ammonia would be flowing into the Millfield River, creating a toxic cloud that would force evacuation of everything within 10 miles. But Garrett Fox had Callan Stone's ear, and Callan Stone had dollar signs where his common sense should have been. I went back to work, extending the boom with surgical precision. The primary winch cable had to cradle the tanker's center of gravity, while the secondary line stabilized the cab. Too much tension on either one and the whole system would fail catastrophically. The math was unforgiving: boom angle, load weight, ground conditions, wind pressure. Get any variable wrong and people died. 20 minutes later, I had the load assessed and was calculating the lift sequence when a black Escalade pulled up through the emergency vehicles. Callan Stone stepped out, wearing a $2,000 coat that had never seen actual work. He was 35, inherited the company 6 months ago when his father passed, and thought running heavy recovery was like managing a delivery service. Old man Stone had understood the business. He'd started with one truck in 1987, built the company by showing up when others wouldn't, doing jobs others couldn't handle. He knew every operator by name, understood that good equipment and experienced crews were investments, not expenses. When he died of a heart attack last September, he left behind a company worth $15 million and a son who saw it as a portfolio to be optimized. Mitchell. Colin yelled over the wind, marching through the slush in Italian leather shoes. "What's the holdup? Garrett says this should have been cleared an hour ago." I climbed down from the controls, my boots finding purchase on the icy pavement. Tank integrity is compromised. I called back, not moving away from the truck. One mistake and we evacuate everything within 3 miles. That includes the elementary school. Garrett says the manual lists 45-minute maximum for tanker recovery. The manual, Garrett's Bible of operational efficiency, written by insurance companies and government bureaucrats who'd never worked a day in actual recovery. Callan, that manual covers fuel tankers, not industrial chemicals. This isn't gasoline, it's anhydrous ammonia. Concentration levels that'll burn your lungs out in under 2 minutes. "I don't pay you to lecture me about chemicals." Callan shot back, his face reddening despite the cold. "I pay you to move trucks. And frankly, Noah, your methods are outdated. Everything's computerized now. Any operator with basic training can run these systems." There it was. The real conversation we'd been avoiding for months. I was 58, collecting the highest salary in the fleet, and he thought my experience was just expensive habit. To him, I was a dinosaur standing in the way of operational efficiency. "The recovery operation requires hazmat certification," I said, keeping my voice level. "Chemical-specific protocols that aren't in your manual." "Is finished," Callan cut me off. "Garrett's already contacted a subcontractor crew. Younger guys who understand modern efficiency protocols and don't need to turn every simple recovery into a military operation." I looked past him at Wesley, who was listening with growing alarm. Then I looked at the dangling cab, still swaying in the wind, the driver inside probably wondering why we were having a corporate discussion while he slowly froze to death. "You're pulling me off an active hazmat recovery?" I asked. "I'm accepting your resignation, effective immediately." Callan held out his hand, palm up. "Company radio, emergency override keys, and access badges. Now." The wind howled across the bridge, carrying with it the sharp bite of ammonia and the metallic taste of failure. I'd spent 30 years building a reputation for handling the impossible, and this MBA with soft hands was throwing it away to save money on a spreadsheet. Behind us, I could hear Wesley on his radio, voice tight with concern. "Dispatch, be advised we have a change in recovery personnel." "Repeat." "Primary operator is being replaced." I looked at the tools of my trade, Big Mother with her boom extended, winch cables rigged for a precision lift that maybe 3 people in the state could execute properly. Then I looked at Callan, standing there in his expensive coat, hands still outstretched. "You sure about this?" I asked. "Get off my equipment, Mitchell." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the radio, the override keys, and my company access badge. But instead of handing them to Callan, I walked over to Wesley and placed them in his hands. "Those boys they're bringing in," I said quietly. "They don't have the training for this. When it goes sideways and you'll need someone who can clean up the mess." Wesley nodded grimly. "Stay close, Noah." I parked my personal pickup on the shoulder, 200 yards upwind from the disaster zone, and watched through binoculars as Callan's modern efficiency played out in real time. The subcontractor crew showed up 25 minutes later in a basic wrecker that looked like it had been built during the Clinton administration. 3 kids in their 20s. No hazmat suits, no chemical monitoring equipment, and a truck that couldn't handle half the load they were about to attempt. The lead operator looked maybe 24, with the kind of confidence that comes from not knowing enough to be scared. He walked right up to the tanker without checking atmospheric readings, started rigging chains to the rear axle like he was hooking up a sedan that had slid off the road. His crew was standing around in regular winter gear, breathing unfiltered air that was now pushing 220 ppm ammonia concentration. Jesus Christ, I muttered, watching the kid wrap a chain around the kingpin assembly, without any understanding of the stress loads involved. Wesley's voice crackled over the emergency frequency I still had programmed in my personal radio. All units, maintain perimeter. Recovery operation in progress. But it wasn't a recovery operation. It was a disaster in slow motion. The kid climbed into his wrecker and engaged the winch. I watched the cable go taut, heard the groan of metal under stress, even from 200 yards away. The rear tanker shifted, pivoting on its damaged coupling like a 40,000-pound pendulum. Instead of lifting straight up, the kid was trying to drag it sideways across the bridge surface. The physics were wrong. The approach was wrong. Everything about it was wrong. Abort, Wesley shouted into his radio. You're destabilizing the tank too late. The coupling snapped with a sound like a gunshot. The rear tanker pivoted hard right, slamming into the bridge rail with enough force to crack concrete. I saw the first wisps of ammonia vapor escaping from the impact site, a ghostly white cloud that started thin and spread fast. My atmospheric monitor, sitting on my dashboard, started screaming. 350 ppm and climbing. We'd crossed into the immediately dangerous zone. Wesley was on his radio immediately. All units, establish 1,000-yard perimeter. We have confirmed chemical leak, Category 3. Evacuate residential zones in sectors 7 through 12. This is not a drill. The wind was shifting, carrying the toxic cloud directly toward Millfield Elementary School. 800 kids, third-shift custodial staff, and a handful of teachers staying late for parent conferences. They had maybe 10 minutes to get everyone out of the building before the concentration reached lethal levels. I could see the panic starting to spread through the emergency responders. The fire department was backing up their trucks, creating distance between themselves and the leak. The subcontractor crew was already running for their vehicle, the young operator stumbling through the slush with his eyes streaming from chemical exposure. Callan was standing next to his Escalade, talking rapidly into his phone, probably calling his insurance company, trying to figure out how much this was going to cost him. What he should have been doing was authorizing an immediate cleanup response, but that would require admitting that his cost-cutting measures had just created a regional environmental disaster. My radio crackled, Wesley's voice, direct channel, the one he used when he needed to talk without the whole emergency network listening in. Noah, I need options. I looked at Big Mother, still rigged and positioned for the original recovery operation. Callan's crew had abandoned her when they ran, leaving 60 tons of specialized equipment sitting idle while a chemical disaster unfolded 50 yards away. Wesley, I can contain it. Need 15 minutes clear access and someone to spot me from a safe distance. You're not authorized. I'm the only one here qualified to stop this before it kills someone. There was a pause. In the background, I could hear sirens as emergency vehicles repositioned outside the expanding danger zone. Somewhere in the distance, the elementary school's evacuation alarm was blaring. Do it, Wesley said. I'll handle the paperwork later. I didn't wait for Callan's permission. I fired up my pickup and drove straight into the hot zone, past the police barriers, past the evacuation perimeter, right up to Big Mother's driver door. The ammonia concentration was thick enough to taste now, even through my respirator. Without proper protection, I'd have been unconscious in under 3 minutes. But I had protection, full hazmat suit, military-grade respirator, emergency oxygen supply. Equipment that cost more than most people made in a month, that Callan thought was an unnecessary expense. I climbed into Big Mother's cab and started her up. The hydraulic systems responded immediately, boom swinging into position with the precision that only comes from $250,000 worth of engineering. This wasn't some contractor's jury-rigged wrecker. This was a machine designed to handle the impossible. The lift had to be perfect. Too fast and the damaged coupling would fail completely, spilling the entire tank contents into the river below. Too slow and the leak would overwhelm the fire department's containment foam. I had one chance to get it right. I engaged the primary boom, feeling the familiar response of German hydraulics and American steel. The cable system I'd rigged 45 minutes earlier was still in place, positioned to cradle the tanker at its center of gravity. This was the lift I'd been preparing for before corporate efficiency decided my experience was too expensive. Hydraulic pressure holding steady at 3,200 psi. Load distribution optimal. Ground conditions stable despite the ice. I worked the boom controls with fingertip precision, feeling the weight of the tanker transfer from the damaged coupling to Big Mother's lifting system. The leak slowed, then stopped. Without the stress of hanging weight, the fractured weld seams sealed themselves through surface tension. The toxic cloud began to dissipate in the wind, concentration levels dropping from lethal to merely dangerous. 10 minutes later, I had the rear tanker stabilized on solid ground and the cab lifted clear of the bridge rail. The driver, a guy named Shane Murphy, who I'd meet properly later, was hypothermic but alive. The residential evacuation was canceled. The elementary school went back to normal operations. I powered down Big Mother systems and climbed out, my legs shaking from adrenaline crash. Wesley was waiting for me, along with half the fire department and about 200 yards worth of emergency vehicles. Outstanding work, Noah, Wesley said, but his eyes were looking past me at Callan, who was approaching with his lawyer in tow. Noah, Callan called out, trying to sound authoritative despite the obvious panic in his voice. We need to discuss your employment status. No, we don't, I said, pulling off my respirator. I don't work for you. The insurance won't cover this operation without an authorized company operator, Callan said desperately. If you don't sign an employment reinstatement form, we're looking at $2.3 million in liability. His lawyer, a sharp-looking woman in an expensive suit, stepped forward with a clipboard. Mr. Mitchell, my client is prepared to offer you immediate reinstatement at a 40% salary increase, plus retroactive hazard pay for tonight's operation. We just need you to sign this employment verification form. I looked at the paper she was holding out. Standard corporate damage control, make the problem go away by throwing money at it. So you want me to commit insurance fraud to save your hide? It's not fraud, Callan pleaded, his voice cracking with desperation. It's a technicality. You were on company equipment responding to a company contract. If the insurance doesn't pay out, the bank calls the loan on the entire fleet. They'll liquidate everything, the trucks, the yard, all of it. My father's legacy will be gone. I pulled off my chemical suit, the cold February air hitting my sweat-soaked clothes like a slap. You destroyed your father's legacy the day you decided safety was too expensive. I'll give you equity. Callan shouted, grabbing my arm as I started to walk away. 20% ownership in the company. Full operational control of the heavy recovery division. Name your salary, minus anything you want. For a moment, I stopped. 20% of a company worth $15 million wasn't pocket change. Operational control meant I could run things the right way. Hire qualified people, maintain proper safety standards. It was tempting, the kind of offer that could set me up for a comfortable retirement. But then I remembered the 3 kids from the subcontractor crew standing around breathing poison because they didn't know better. I remembered Callan screaming about efficiency standards while a man hung dying over a river. I remembered his father, Old Man Stone, who understood that in our business, cutting corners meant cutting lives short. No, I said, shaking his hand off my arm. What? Callan whispered, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. No, I won't sign. I wasn't your employee when I performed that rescue. I was a citizen cleaning up your mess. Callan's face went white. He looked at his lawyer, then back at me, his eyes filling with the kind of panic that comes from watching everything you thought you controlled slip away. You're ruining me, he said, his voice barely audible over the wind. No, Callan. You did that yourself. I walked back to my pickup, leaving him standing there in the slush with his lawyer and his clipboard full of useless papers. Wesley followed me, his expression grim. That was the right call, he said quietly. But you know what this means, I nodded. Without insurance coverage for the incident, Stone Recovery was finished. The state would pull their contract within 48 hours. The bank would foreclose within 30 days. Colin would be lucky to walk away with enough money for a down payment on a used car lot. What about you? Wesley asked. What's next for Noah Mitchell? I looked back at Big Mother, sitting there in the emergency lights like a sleeping giant. 60 tons of precision engineering abandoned by people who thought expertise was interchangeable with enthusiasm. "I've got some calls to make," I said. The aftermath unfolded exactly as I'd predicted. The state pulled Stone Recovery's emergency response contract before the weekend was over. Turned out operating without certified personnel violated about 20 different safety regulations that Garrett Fox's efficiency manual had conveniently ignored. The insurance company denied every claim related to the incident, and the bank moved faster than I'd expected. They called the loans within 2 weeks. The equipment auction was held on a rainy Tuesday in April. I stood in the back of the crowd wearing a baseball cap and keeping quiet while vultures from every towing company in 3 states picked through the remains of what had once been a proud family business. They sold the light trucks first, flatbeds and standard wreckers that any operator could handle. Decent prices, nothing surprising. But when they rolled Big Mother up to the auction block, the bidding got interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, lot number 47, 2019 Century 150 rotator, 60-ton capacity, low hours, full hydraulic package. This is a $1.2 million machine, folks. Bidding starts at $200,000, silence. A few guys kicked the tires, looked at the boom specifications, shook their heads. Too much truck for most operations, too specialized for general recovery work. You needed contracts that required that kind of capability, and more importantly, you needed operators certified to run it. Do I hear $150,000? More silence. The auctioneer was starting to sweat. $100,000 then. This is precision German engineering, folks. I raised my hand. $50,000. Every head in the crowd turned to look at me. Callan was standing near the bank representatives, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 2 months. When he saw me bidding on his father's flagship truck, his mouth fell open. I have $50,000 from the gentleman in the back. Do I hear $60,000? A few guys looked interested at that price, but they knew the score. Without the state contracts, without the specialized insurance, Big Mother was just an expensive truck that cost a fortune to maintain, going once, going twice. The auctioneer's gavel came down with finality. Sold for $50,000 to bidder number 73. I walked up to the clerk's table and handed over a cashier's check. It represented most of my savings, plus a small business loan I'd secured using my certifications as collateral. Not much money for a machine that had cost 24 times that amount new. But I wasn't just buying equipment. I was buying opportunity. Wesley had made some calls on my behalf, mentioned my name to the right people in state government. Turned out there was considerable interest in an emergency response contractor who put safety ahead of profit margins. The new state contract specifications included requirements for military-grade safety protocols and veteran preference hiring. I drove Big Mother out of that auction yard with Shelby riding shotgun. She'd stayed with Stone Recovery until the bitter end, trying to keep things running while Callan's world collapsed around him. When I offered her a job as dispatch coordinator for Tactical Heavy Recovery LLC, she didn't even ask about the salary. Where we headed, boss? She asked as we pulled onto the highway. To pick up our first employee, I said. Kid named Bryce Coleman, who was smart enough not to touch a leaking ammonia tank. 6 months later, we're running 3 trucks and have more work than we can handle. The state contract came through exactly as Wesley had promised, along with federal emergency response credentials that opened doors to military base contracts I never could have accessed working for someone else. Callan found work managing logistics for a shipping company in Portland. Last I heard, he was doing fine pushing papers and optimizing delivery schedules. No heavy equipment, no life or death decisions, no responsibility for anyone's safety but his own. As for me, I'm still pulling broken things out of impossible places. The difference is that now I set the standards, choose the jobs, and nobody tells me that saving lives takes too long or costs too much. Experience isn't expensive. It's priceless, and it can't be replaced by efficiency metrics or downloaded from a manual. When everything goes wrong and lives hang in the balance, it's the only currency that matters. That's a lesson worth more than any salary Callan Stone could have offered. In business, the cheapest option always costs the most in the end, because when you cut corners on expertise, you don't save money. You just transfer the bill to someone else's emergency. Real leaders don't replace experience with efficiency. They build systems where both can thrive, because the moment you think knowledge is expensive, you've already proven you can't afford ignorance.